Hey everybody, welcome to our next exit. We're here in the Pacific Northwest, right in the middle of the Oregon coast, and we're at Thousand Trails campsite, Whalers Rest, and we're way down over here on the north side, which is our favorite side. But really the whole campground is pretty nice. It goes across this road, and then they have the south side. The problem with the south side is there's no internet with Verizon. I think AT&T works, but Verizon is pretty much zilch. But on the north side, they've got they provide internet over a wireless. They have wireless internet that you can hook up to, and it works pretty good. So we always try to get on the north side. If we can't, and we get on the south side, it is just brutal. We got to drive into town to get internet, and we don't watch a lot of TV. Mostly we're internet guys. But this here is how it goes all the way around the south side, and the best part is there's like a half mile from our campground over here to the ocean. Right here on the south side there's a trail that goes right across the highway and puts you right on the ocean, and just a great place. We really enjoy it. But the thing of no internet is a problem. And that happens to us time and time again, where our Verizon either is real weak or non-existent, or we have to drive somewhere to get internet. And so we were pretty excited when we read about this Starlink that Elon Musk put together with the satellite internet. It's super blinding speeds. So we checked into it as quick as we could. We watched a lot of reviews, but it seems like most of the RVers that we saw talk negative, that the trees were too would block the signal too much, and it was too hard to set it up on your roof, or just different problems. And most of it was negative reviews, but we decided to give it a try. We had 30 days to order it and then try it out, and if we didn't like it after 30 days, complete refund. So we gave it a shot. We couldn't get it right away. We had to go to our next campground, so we had it sent to our son's house, and they live up in Kelso, Washington, which is only 60 or 70 miles away from our next campground up in Seaside, Oregon. So we went and had a nice day at our son's house, picked up our Starlink, and then drove back over to the Seaside Thousand Trails campground and put it up. 15 minutes later, we had internet. So, just in case there's some of you guys that know less about Starlink than we do, which is not a lot, let me kind of give you an idea how Starlink works. This is the coverage map of where you can get Starlink in the country, and it started out just for residential and maybe businesses, but their promise was high-speed internet, and they would only sell so many Starlink subscriptions in any one location so that the internet speed would stay up high. They wouldn't overload it and bring it down, which is what happens in a lot of the campgrounds. We get a good signal, but there's so many people using Verizon that we get almost no internet. It's so slow because it's just too crowded. Well, Starlink promised that they wouldn't oversell their subscriptions. And so you can see here over on the east side of the coast, it's all full. All this dark blue means that they're full. So you can't even get it for your home. You have to get on a waiting list. It takes you months or up to a year or more. And then here in the middle of the country, there's plenty. There's not a whole lot of us live out here in the middle, so you can get Starlink right away in most places. And then over on the west coast along I-5 and the bigger, more populated areas, you have a hard time getting it. You have to get on a waiting list. So that caused a lot of problems. A whole lot of people have Starlink. But they started a new subscription service called Starlink RV. And with Starlink RV, you can just sign up, you get Starlink right away. We got ours in less than a week. But the problem is your service is underneath everybody else. So everybody that has regular Starlink residential service gets their service first, and it's high speed, 100 megabytes a second, 200 megabytes a second. And us RV people can't interfere with that. We just take what's left over. Which so far our experience is we've been getting from say 25 megabits a second up to 150 megabytes a second. So there's still a lot left over. It gets a little bit slower between like 5 and 10 at night when people are streaming videos and all that stuff, but it's still very fast. Pearl and I have never had any internet faster than 10 megabytes a second at our home through CenturyLink and those kind of places. And then with Verizon, it's usually 2, 3, 4, 5 megabytes a second download. Sometimes we might get 10 or even 20, but we're really country bumpkins when it comes to high-speed internet. So when I say lightning fast or high-speed internet, it's all relative to what you're used to. So if we get 10 megabytes or more, we're tickled to death. Up here where we're at now at Seaside, it's wide open. So if we had a house there, we could get residential service today and have our system up and running, you know, in a week or so. But where we're going next, up at Chehalis, it's full. We couldn't get service there, and that's kind of in the middle of nowhere. But it's still, they've sold up their subscription, so you can't get on it. But RV internet, you can get underneath and get what's left over. So we'll see what kind of service we get up there. Plus, we're going to have a lot of trees when we get up there. So that's pretty much Starlink. Here's the antenna. And you can set it up on your roof. They've got poles they sell that you can mount it on the pole. The higher you get it, the better shot you got of getting over trees if that's a problem. Or you can just set it out on the ground if you have a nice clean shot. At Seaside, we set it up on the roof. But at Chehalis, we just set it out on the ground. Either way works just fine. You have 75 foot of cable, so you got a lot of room to move your antenna around to wherever you can find a clean shot at that northern sky, which is the most important. So we may have muddied the waters, but hopefully we've answered a couple of questions, and with a little luck, you know a little bit more about Starlink than you did when you started this video. If you're still watching, you probably have some more questions, and we'll put those at the end of the video about Starlink for RVs and Starlink residential with portability to help clarify it just a little more. But for right now, let's head on up to Chehalis and show you what that's like. At Seaside, it went perfect. Without a doubt, we'd keep it and buy it and think it's every bit worth the $135. But at Chehalis, maybe a different story. I know there's a lot more trees up there.
Let me know, do you feel me too? Let it show, babe, I'm into you. We've been on and off, in and out, up and down, too many times. Now it's time, show me what you got. Some say that it's the little things, I say that it's a big old ring. Anything to hear you say I do. It ain't the way that you see me, it ain't the way that you kiss, it ain't the way that you please me. It's just the way that it is, the way that it is. Baby, you had me running blind. It's time for you and me, baby, to make up our minds.
Well, you know what they say about RVing. We all like to do it a little bit different. We kind of like this Chehalis campsite where we got the trees and a little bit of privacy. That's a big plus for us. But a lot of people don't like that kind of campground. Here at Chehalis, most of the sites don't have sewer and stuff, but they got that privacy in the trees. We're by at Seaside. It's nice and they've got a lot of grass. It's well groomed. They take good care of it. But it's all out in the open. It's pretty sterile. And that's why you got that big open view of the northern sky. So let's look at Seaside, the numbers we got for our Starlink for our download speeds. So this is the Starlink app that you put on your phone, and it shows you if it's online or offline, and how much it's been offline. You can do speed tests. It'll tell you what kind of download speed you're getting and stuff. So this here chart is every time that our Starlink connection has been offline in the last 12 hours. And as you can see, it's only 5 times and a total of 40 seconds or so. And that's because there is, Seaside, there's no trees out there. It's all open, so you don't have any downtime. And these 5 or 6 downtimes are due to Starlink's issues, not from blockage or anything. But I'm not going to waste a whole lot of your time talking about Seaside because it's just awesome. Let's put up the Chehalis numbers, and we'll pull up the Starlink app, and that's a whole different story. So one of the first things we noticed at Chehalis is this little red box. It says expect an interruption. In this case, it says every 34 seconds. And it'd go offline. You know, it would, with the satellites would patch us off, and the next satellite might be behind a tree branch or something, and so it couldn't find the signal. So it'd be offline for 2 seconds to 5 seconds. I'll show you the list of those interruptions here in a minute. But it never shut down. We streamed every day probably 2 to 4 hours worth of movies, and we were online off and on all day, Pearl and I both, and neither one of us had any issues at all. We never had any buffering whenever we was watching a video, a YouTube video or a movie or something, because the internet speed is so fast. Chehalis, I don't think we ever saw in the hundreds, but we got into high 60s or 70s megabytes a second on download speeds, but then it shut off. I'll put our little cell phone up beside a video, one of our YouTube videos, and you can see as it goes offline and online, the video never is interrupted at all, even with the interruptions. I'm going to be quiet here and just kind of let you watch the one of our old YouTube. This is up in the Badlands in, I think, South Dakota. Last year when we was boondocking. So I don't know about you guys, but I've been seeing this nomad view, this first camping locations in YouTube videos for the last 4 or 5 years, and I wondered where it was. I was really hoping someday I could get here, and now we're here. This, to me, is a pretty amazing place. Hey, like your view, baby.
I like the view. How do you like it?
I like it a lot. I'm glad you stopped just in time.
Thank you.
You don't have 5 feet left.
Now I got 10.
Okay, 10. I'm still glad you stopped. Pretty nice.
Yeah, it is.
Then here's our buddies Jeff and Lori. Yes. And let me show you, here's the list of when we were offline. It's every time that Starlink went offline for the last 12 hours. You've always got this graph to see. And there's hundreds of offline times. It just scrolls and scrolls. Like at Seaside, there's only 5 in 12 hours. Here's got hundreds. And but it doesn't really affect it. It doesn't seem to affect it. So that's kind of all I'm going to go over about here. When you got trees and buildings and RVs, and between the antenna and the satellites, you're going to have some interruptions. And as you can see, the sky's pretty much blocked. You need the whole northern sky to make it work because it's full of satellites. And when it's blocked, you're going to get partial internet. But for most things, like Pearl and I use it for surfing the internet, email, watching YouTube or streaming movies, it worked just fine here at Chehalis. So in a nutshell, what was the most important things that we learned about Starlink for RVs? And the first is, if you want to give it a try, you can order it, and you've got 30 days to try it out, travel around, and see what you think. It cost about, or exactly $599, and there's a $50 shipping fee, and then your state taxes. And the state taxes for us was right at $50 too. So it cost us $699 and change. If after 30 days you want to send it back, be sure and keep your box, pack it up in the original box, because it's about this size right here. So it's a pretty good sized box, and you can pack it up in there and ship it back. You have to, they refund all your money except for the shipping fee. So the $50 shipping fee, they don't give you that back, so you get like $650 back, and then you have to pay the shipping to send it back to Starlink. You'll get a bill like just a couple of weeks after you get it for Starlink RV is $135 a month. So you get that bill. If you send it back, my understanding is they'll refund that $135 as well, but it takes longer to get that back. That may take you a month or so. So for the most part, you can try it for 30 days. If you don't like it, you can ship it back, and all it costs you is $50 for Starlink to ship it to you, $50 for you to ship it back. And then another thing, you can get it right away. We ordered it, we got it within a week. And you can be pretty comfortable if you're in the light color, anywhere where it's light colored blue, you're going to get high-speed internet, because it's not full. They're still letting new residential customers order it and get an account. So that means there's plenty of Starlink bandwidth left over in that area. And here's what Starlink has to say about it. On the in the light baby blue areas, colored areas, that you can expect Starlink for RVs, the same as all the rest of them, 50 to 250 megabytes a second. Pretty good. But in the dark blue areas on the East Coast and the West Coast, wherever it's already full and you got to get on a waiting list, that especially during the high usage hours of 5 to 10, you can expect 5 to 100 megabytes a second. So even at 5 megabytes, that works for Pearl and I. That's fast compared to what we get a lot of times. It's usable. So anyway, that's what Starlink says. 50 to 250 in the baby blue colored, and then possibly 5 to 100 in the dark blue on the coast. Remembering that assumes you got a perfect shot at the northern sky and you have no obstructions. The obstructions for RVers that are camping in boondocking in the trees, or RV parks with trees, that's a whole new thing. For like you and I, it's even at the slower degraded service, it's plenty fast for us. You may have different expectations. I've heard people say that it's not good for Zoom conference calls and stuff, video conference calls, or for YouTube Live, if you're doing a YouTube Live. If you're on the somewhere where you're getting these interruptions, like we could do it here at Seaside with no problem, but at Chehalis we couldn't do it, because whenever it has an interruption, there's no buffering and it just closes your connection. So if you're working and you got important stuff to do, it may not be the best choice. But we're going to take advantage of some of the features it has. You can turn it off when you're not using it. In Yuma, it's in the wide open area, so we'll get high-speed internet. But when we get back to Yuma, we have internet service at our house 12 months out of the year, because we have to have our security system and all that going. So for right now, we're going to keep our Verizon no limit data plan for I think it's $60 a month, and then our Starlink RV for $135, and then our home internet is like $60 a month. So altogether, that's $250 or something a month for everything. But it's just one of those things that we feel we need, and this is the best. One question you might have is how to install it. How complicated is it to set it up? I can assure you, if you can pull up to a fuel pump, get the nozzle off of the dispenser and put it in your fuel tank, you can install Starlink for RV. It's very simple. It comes in a box. You take it out of the box. The antenna has got a 75-foot cable. You set the antenna out facing the northern sky. You run the cable through one of your windows in your RV, plug it into the router, and then plug the router into a 110 wall outlet. You don't set nothing up. There is no buttons. There is no connection to it. You can't even do anything if you wanted to. Way to go. If you got questions about it, you need to go to starlink.com. They've got this, the map that I keep showing you, interactive map, and you can zone in right in anywhere you're going to be to check and see if you can get residential service, or check and see if where you go camping and RVing, is that in the light colored blue area. And as long as there's no blockage, no trees or building or something, you're going to get really fast internet. If it's in the dark blue, it won't be quite as fast, but it'll still be fast, 50 megabytes a second or something. So, but you can do that. And then there's a whole section that tells you about frequently asked questions for residential with portability, and Starlink for RV. Instead of me trying to repeat it to you, you need to go there and look. So all I'm telling you is our experience. We love it. We didn't send it back. We kept it. We're back at Seaside now, and it's just coming. You don't even have to worry about it. It's just high speed 24/7. So that pretty much covers our point of view. We think Starlink for RVs is a thumbs up, other than it's pretty expensive, but we like what it gives us, and you may want to check into it. So that pretty much covers our video. Until we see you guys again next time, keep the wheels rolling, stay safe. We'll see you at the next exit. Bye-bye, folks.
When we don't feel the same, don't let it change. No matter where we go, no matter where it ends, as long as